This is DW News live from Berlin. A dark day for France after a night of bloodshed. More than 120 people are dead and over 200 injured following a series of terror attacks in Paris. All the attackers are now thought to be dead after their assault on 6 locations across the city. Most of them are reported to have blown themselves up. We'll be going live to Paris for the latest in just a few moments. French President François Hollande declares a state of emergency, vowing to be merciless against those behind the deadliest attacks in France since World War II. I'm Gerhard Elfers. Welcome to the show. With me in the studio here, Thomas Sparrow, our political correspondent. We're expecting Angela Merkel to give a press conference reacting to those tragic events in Paris in a moment. But first, we go to Paris. A brutal and coordinated attack on targets across Paris it was. Officials put the death toll at more than 120, with more than 200 wounded. The attackers struck restaurants, bars, a shopping centre. The greatest number of victims were gunned down at a concert venue. At least 2 suicide bombers blew themselves up at the National Soccer Stadium. Parisians are in shock after what had been an ordinary Friday night turned into a bloodbath.
People running for their lives after 2 blasts at the National Stadium. This man had just hung up the phone when he was hit by flying debris from one of the bombings. He says it saved his life. Everything was blown to bits and I felt stuff flying around. I fell down and then I got back up. And that's when you guys saw me. This is the cell phone that took the hit. Otherwise, my head would have been blown to bits. The explosions could be heard clearly inside the stadium, 16 minutes into a game between France and Germany. The football continued, while elsewhere in Paris, grimmer events were unfolding. At the Bataclan Theatre, several attackers opened fire and took hostages during a rock concert. When police stormed the site several hours later, the attackers blew themselves up. By then, more than 100 people were dead. Witnesses described a scene of carnage. We heard what we thought were firecrackers. We turned around, and then I saw 2 young men, no older than 25, with Kalashnikovs. They told us all to lie down. There was one who kept gesturing for us to get down. We lay down, the whole room did. I was completely under other people, and the attackers kept shooting. We managed to escape through a door that was right on the stage, and we hid there for 2 hours. 25 people in a room, all stacked one against the other, crouching and hearing shots. It was as if people were being tortured. They were hurt because they were being shot. President François Hollande was quickly on the scene, rushing there from the National Stadium, where he'd been watching the football match. When terrorists are capable of such atrocities, they should know they'll be faced with a France that's determined, a France that's united, a France that stands together, and a France that will not be intimidated. 6 attacks that have rocked Paris. 6 attacks that have shocked the world. And the question that no one can answer at the moment: why?
In Paris is now our Europe correspondent, Georg Mattes. Georg, tell us, what is the situation there right now?
2 things are on the minds of people here in Paris this morning as they wake up to after a truly shocking night. One is, of course, the numbers. 120 people dead, over 200 people wounded. A lot of them, 70, 80 of them out of the 200 is seriously wounded. There are reports from hospitals that they are overwhelmed by the number of patients coming in. And then secondly, people here woke up this morning on the radio, on television, on the media with individual reports from witnesses, one has to say from survivors of for instance, the venue right behind me here, the Rock Club, which was targeted at a moment when 1,500 people were in there having fun listening to a rock band, and that is when the attackers shot indiscriminately at people, creating a mass panic. So these are the impressions, numbers and the stories that people in Paris have woken up with this morning.
Georg, tell us what eyewitnesses have said who had been in the venue. You're standing right in front of that concert hall. There were some gruesome experiences.
Absolutely, very, very gruesome. Some people reported that dead bodies were lying over them, and then they were buried beneath them. These are some records. Others told media that they had people with fatal gunshots right next to them, lying on the floor. And then I've arrived here this night, and I checked in a hotel just across the street, and the concierge told me that he heard the gunshots fired at the night, and the jazz club, which you can see right over my left shoulder here, which is now closed and locked down. The entire street is sealed off. And he said as he heard the shots fired, only moments later, the first people came rushing into his lobby, and he provided shelter for them in a lower part of the hotel. And the stories, he said, people told him were that the attackers apparently called into the room that the people of Paris should experience what the people in Syria, where a heavy civil war is raging, they should experience what people in Syria are experiencing.
Georg, what is the mood on the streets at the moment? Paris seems to be under some kind of lockdown. What's the feeling there?
Of course, it's a feeling of utter shock and disbelief at the sheer size, the numbers of people that have been targeted, particularly young people, innocent people that have been targeted. Now, after the attacks of Charlie Hebdo this January, people were aware that something like this could happen again, but they did not think of such a scale that something like that would be possible. And of course, now the first peoples here in the street of Paris are asking questions. For instance, why did we get involved in Syria? Why did we have to fight ISIS there? Why maybe are we ourselves to be blamed that we have drawn this conflict? Some people are in fact speaking here of a war that has been brought to the city of Paris.
Georg Mattes, stay with us. We'll come back to you in a few minutes. Now, let's take a look at a map of Paris to put these attacks in geographical context. The assailants struck on multiple locations across the city. There were 2 suicide attacks at the Stade de France stadium in the north of the capital. At the same time, in central Paris, gunmen stormed. And now we're cutting live to Chancellor Angela Merkel, who's giving a statement in reaction to the attacks in France.
Behind us is one of the worst nights that the people in Europe have experienced in recent years. People in Paris had to suffer pain, fear and suffering. I would like to say one thing to the people of Paris. We, your German friends, we cry with you. We will take on the fight against those who did such unspeakable things to you. My thoughts are with the more than 120 people whose lives have been stolen, and my thoughts are with the families and friends. Be sure, Germany feels your pain.
und in ihrer Trauer. Ich denke auch an die vielen Verletzten.
I'm thinking of the many wounded and hope that they soon get better, physically and psychologically.
Wurden vor Cafés ermordet,
people were killed in restaurants, in front of cafes, in concert venues, or on the streets of Paris.
Leben freier Menschen leben in einer Stadt,
the
die das
attackers
Leben feiert. Und sie sind
wanted to steal the lives of people of a free city. They hate France's life of freedom. This attack is not just against Paris, but is directed against us all. And that's why we will answer this challenge together.
Die Bundesregierung steht dazu im engen Kontakt mit der französischen Regierung.
The German government is in close contact with France's government, and we have offered all possible assistance. We will do everything to support the search for the attackers and the masterminds of this attack.
Ich werde heute im Laufe des Tages mit den zuständigen Ministern zusammenkommen.
Today I will meet my colleagues in the cabinet and we will discuss the situation in France and everything that entails.
Und dann geben wir auch als Bürger eine klare Antwort. Und die heißt,
and as citizens of Germany,
wir leben von der Mitmenschlichkeit,
we will give our own personal response to this attack. Our society is built on community. We believe in the rights of individuals the right of individuals to make their own lives. We believe in tolerance, and we know that our way of life is stronger than terrorism. Let us give the terrorists our answer by living our values and by reassuring everyone that these values will never change. Thank you.
Very emotional speech there by Chancellor Angela Merkel reacting to the terror attacks in France. Let's bring in Thomas Sparrow, our political correspondent. Thomas, that was a very emotional speech, and she's not known for being very emotional, is she?
Yes, it was very emotional indeed when she says, "We feel your pain, Germany cries with you." I think that was very important because it stresses the close links between Germany and France. I would say that France is perhaps Germany's most important ally in continental Europe, and I think this was clear from what Angela Merkel says. Germany stands by France. Now she will meet with her cabinet in the next few hours to decide how Germany will help France in these very difficult moments.
What do you think? Of course, everybody will ask, what influence will this terror attack, which is apparently, we must say, has been carried out by Islamist extremists, in which way will it influence the discussion in Germany at the moment about this wave of migration we're experiencing?
Well, Angela Merkel didn't mention anything about that, and I think she didn't mention that on purpose. She wanted this to be a statement of support to France, but I do think these attacks are an argument for those who believe that Germany should impose stricter controls, that Germany is not going in the right direction with the open door policy that Angela Merkel presented in the summer. So I think this will strengthen the arguments of those who say, Chancellor, you should try and make more controls. You try and control this situation in the border because the people that are coming, OK, not everyone, but many might be dangerous.
I mean, these attacks will be seen by those who go onto the streets in the Pegida marches, who are very anti-immigration, as a perfect "told you so."
Yes, and it will be a "told you so."
But will it also strengthen her opponents inside her own party?
It could strengthen the opponents within her own party, those who say we have to put, for example, a limit to those who are coming, or Germany faces a security situation here as well. So that could be something that could try and force Merkel's hand in one direction, and that direction could be more controls. But it still remains to be seen whether Merkel will actually decide to impose more controls, because her speech until now has been, we will make it. This is something that we're doing because we think we have to be solid. We have solidarity with those people. So this is a very important moment also for Germany to see in which direction it will go.
You just mentioned the security situation. Is Germany prepared for an attack like this? Or is it likely? I mean, this could have been Berlin, couldn't it?
It could have been Berlin. We've heard from officials saying that Germany remains in the focus of international terrorism and that they are preparing for such an eventuality. Obviously, for these things, you can't prepare a lot. I mean, these things happen precisely when you're not prepared. But the fact that Germany acknowledges right from the start that it is in the focus of international terrorism means that Germany is well aware that this could have happened in Berlin.
Do you think after this that Merkel will be challenged by her opponents inside her own party? There are a few who have actually suggested a tougher line on immigration, notably Finance Minister Schäuble, Interior Minister de Maizière. Do you think they'll have a tailwind right now?
Look, what we've seen in recent weeks, what has dominated the agenda here in Berlin is this political infighting, this idea that many people within Merkel's conservative bloc, also in the opposition, not very happy with the way she has been handling this. And the people that are not happy are precisely interested in having Merkel have a tougher stance on this. So they might come out now with those arguments and say, we have to take a tougher stance.
Thomas, until here, thank you very much so far. Well, French President François Hollande immediately called a cabinet meeting and declared a state of emergency. He made this short address to the nation.
Deux décisions seront prises. L'état d'urgence.
Two decisions have been taken. A state of emergency will be declared, which means that certain locations will be closed. Transportation could be shut down. Searches could also occur across the entire Île-de-France area. The state of emergency will be declared throughout the entire French territory. The second decision I have taken is to close the borders. We need to ensure that nobody can enter to commit any acts whatsoever, while at the same time ensuring that those who were unfortunately able to commit these crimes cannot leave the country. This is a terrible test which once again confronts us. We know where they come from, who these criminals are, who these terrorists are. We must, in these difficult moments, think of the many victims, of the families, of the injured. We need to show our compassion and our solidarity.
Yeah, solidarity is the key word. Let's bring in Georg Mattes again in Paris. Georg, we've heard what the Chancellor's just said, very emotional words of support for the French people. How important is that now for France?
Oh, absolutely important. Of course, in a state of shock, as the country finds itself, any sort of information they can get from other countries that line up, that send a message of support is absolutely crucial for people here, because naturally this is now a moment of insecurity, of vulnerability, and so the words from Angela Merkel will most certainly go down very well with the people here on the streets of Paris.
Thank you very much. Georg, one further question. About the security situation right now in Paris there, is there a plan the police have as to how they will proceed throughout the day?
Well, at the moment in the Élysée Palace is a special security meeting going on. And further on, we have not got much information about how the police is proceeding. It may be that more attackers are still on the run. And I think the reason that so little information has been passed through is also that the police tries to protect their work. They want to make sure that any potential person that is still at large does not gain any advantages from it. They have most definitely learned from the attacks at Charlie Hebdo, where two of the attackers managed to get out of the city of Paris, or into the outskirts of the city of Paris, and they want to avoid, by all means, such a scenario.
Georg Mattes there, thank you very much. The rest of the world has been quick to lend its support to France, expressing outrage at the attacks and sympathy for the many victims. US President Barack Obama led the show of solidarity. He vowed to do everything possible to bring the perpetrators to justice.
France is our oldest ally. The French people have stood shoulder to shoulder with the United States time and again. And we want to be very clear that we stand together with them in the fight against terrorism and extremism. Paris itself represents the timeless values of human progress. Those who think that they can terrorize the people of France or the values that they stand for are wrong.
At this hour, an hour of pain and desperation for France. All we can say is we stand resolutely at the side of our French friends. And our thoughts right at this moment are with the victims and the relatives of the victims.
Hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to our French cousins through this dark and terrible time. These terrorist attacks are deeply worrying and obviously unsettling to people around the world.
Freedom stands up for itself, stands up for its values in the face of terrorism. In France, in Australia, all around the world. We stand shoulder to shoulder with the people of France and with all free peoples in the battle against terrorism.
Reactions from across the world there. Let's go back to Paris and bring in Peter Allen. He's a reporter and was near the Bataclan music venue just after it was attacked. Peter, what did you see there?
I heard a lot of explosions. I saw a lot of the police going into the theatre, and then I saw lots of people rushing out. And then we heard reports of appalling carnage inside the theatre with many fatalities, and indeed reports that police officers may have been killed as well during this assault.
What's the situation where you are right now?
There's nearly quiet in Paris now. There's lots of police everywhere. People are being encouraged to stay indoors. And, of course, the great fear is that there may be further terrorist attacks. There's an extra 1,500 police on the streets of Paris. There's lots of army soldiers everywhere as well. And crowds are being told to disperse. Lots of buildings are shut. Parks are shut. And clearly the situation is extremely tense. There's a state of emergency being declared here. And, again, the major fear is that there will be more violence.
Peter, is there any clear indication that one or more of the gunmen are still on the loose?
There's no clear indication that more are on the loose, but bearing in mind 8 are dead, that would suggest there may have been a support network, some may have escaped, who knows? But there has to be an assumption that there may be other potential terrorists ready to take part in more violence. So it's an obvious assumption. It's one that the French state is taking very seriously.
Peter, Paris is under what you could call a lockdown. What is the security situation in the rest of the country?
I don't think there's any great concern in the rest of the country at the moment. I think the focus is all on Paris. The assault took place there. Clearly, you can't launch a nationwide clampdown. That would be ridiculous, a country the size of France. But at the moment, clearly I'm based in Paris, it's all happening here at the moment. I would suspect there's extra measures being employed in cities like Nice and Toulouse and Marseille, but that would be speculation on my part. Again, I think that the focus is all on Paris.
Peter Allen there in Paris for us. Many thanks.
Thank you.
Speaking last night, the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, urged people in the city to stay at home. But she said the French capital would not bow to terrorism.
Tonight is a moment of sorrow, of tears, of mourning. But Paris is here and remains standing. And I know that Parisians who suffer with those who fell tonight will also get up again. First of all, to help the victims and to demonstrate that this freedom that lives in our city, this love for life, has not been extinguished.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel also reacted just a few moments ago. Let's hear what she had to say.
Seit langer Zeit erlebt hat.
Behind us is one of the worst nights that the people in Europe have experienced in recent years. People in Paris had to suffer pain, fear and suffering. I would like to say one thing to the people of Paris. We, your German friends, we cry with you. We will take on the fight against those who did such unspeakable things to you. My thoughts are with the more than 120 people whose lives have been stolen, and my thoughts are with the families and friends. Be sure, Germany feels your pain. I'm thinking of the many wounded and hope that they soon get better, physically and psychologically. People were killed in restaurants, in front of cafes, in concert venues, or on the streets of Paris. The attackers wanted to steal the lives of people of a free city. They hate France's life of freedom. This attack is not just against Paris, but is directed against us all. And that's why we will answer this challenge together.
Die Bundesregierung steht dazu im engen Kontakt mit der französischen Regierung.
The German government is in close contact with France's government, and we have offered all possible assistance. We will do everything to support the search for the attackers and the masterminds of this attack.
Ich werde heute im Laufe des Tages mit den zuständigen Ministern zusammenkommen.
Today I will meet my colleagues in the cabinet and we will discuss the situation in France and everything that entails.
Und dann geben wir auch als Bürger eine klare Antwort. Und die heißt,
and as citizens of Germany,
wir leben von der Mitmenschlichkeit,
we will give our own personal response to this attack. Our society is built on community. We believe in the rights of individuals to the right of individuals to make their own lives. We believe in tolerance, and we know that our way of life is stronger than terrorism.
Angela Merkel there reacting to events in Paris last night. Here's a reminder of our top story. Terrorists have killed around 120 people and injured many more in a string of apparently coordinated attacks in Paris. They hit at least 6 separate locations in the French capital. That's it for now. We'll be back at the top of the hour. This is DW News. Thanks for watching.